Well, it didn't have to live with me for very long for me to realize I really needed to continue some color right across. I think that works okay. I wanted to pick up some of these colors, mute it a little bit, but still introduce them and still continue that sort of that line going across. All right, and a little highlighting on this rock, so we have this, opposing this, and a little highlighting on this rock. So, yeah, played with the water a little bit. Now I don't have to live with it anymore. Now I'm happy. I know I keep saying that, but I promise you I'm not going to change my mind this time. My large canvas did not come in yet. So, I thought, alright, we will grab another 16 by 20 inch. The edge of this, it's just proud of the front lip of the easel. Same on top. And give it a bit of pressure downward, and it sandwiches it between the jaws. But remember, I have those little finishing nails that are driven in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then sharpened with a file so that they grab that canvas really well. What to do on this one? Well, I don't know what I'm going to do with this yet, but one thing I have decided on is I'd like to make the stain. I'd like to stain the whole thing. I'd like to stain it a little darker than the last one. So we're going to use some yellow ochre, burnt sienna, and a bit of ultramarine blue. Sort of a warm brownish green-ish. Actually, I've got this pile of cobalt blue that should be used as well, so I'll use up a bunch of that. And as usual, we'll go around the outside of the canvas first. Get that out of the way. Not getting the paint off, but not too much. Going around the edges a little. The canvases that I get almost always have a bit of a rounded shoulder on them on the outside, which is good. It didn't always used to be that way. It seemed as though a lot of canvases used to just have the stretcher bar was very sharply cut. That was a few years back. And of course that's much harder on the canvas itself. But this is a little better. That's an improvement. As I've mentioned, many people love a painting, but they don't necessarily want a frame on it. So this way, they can, or the gallery, the owner can, or the gallery can just paint the edge a dark color, or as I've seen in many cases, basically black hockey tape, fabric tape around the edges. Cleans it up pretty nicely if you don't want a frame. Oh, there's my rattling easel again. That's okay. Here, let me just mix up another batch of this. And I'm really not too fussy about getting the colors exactly right, as long as they're all more or less in the same neighborhood. For the stain, because I'm staining it, it's not likely going to get a wash in. You know, a wash in really is the painting, the underpainting before you work on the final painting. Helps to guide you, you know, it's a little bit, your drawing, it's the drawing you make, but you're making it in paint. And it just helps you stay organized. Sometimes I've stained a canvas and then done a wash in over the stain. I don't think that'll be the case today, but we'll see. A little bit. Don't want to get too scrubby-dubby too quickly. I don't want paint spattering all over the place. Yeah, this is going pretty brown. Okay, that's fine. I always like to get rid of the white. Oh, Bob, you made a comment, I don't know if it was yesterday or recently anyway, regarding how few colors, how the minimal number of colors that I used on the last painting anyway, or parts of the last painting, to come up with a, you know, a reasonable variety of colors. And that's really something that it's a learned thing, you know. You can have a large palette or a small palette. I have sort of a medium size, but I often don't use all the colors on my palette. I'll just I'll use what I deem to be appropriate. And when I'm washing in, usually I'll stay away from the cadmiums. In fact, in the final painting, I usually avoid the cadmiums, you know, your intense colors, cad orange, cad red, cad yellow, all these things. And I reserve them for the end. I feel that if you use them during the wash-in, or use them to cover large areas, you're playing all your cards. You're playing your full hand. And then if you need to layer over top of it, how do you get more intense? You know, you've kind of played your last cards. Now that's just for me, painting landscapes. You know, they're not as intensely colored as some types of painting. You know, they're, for the most part, they're not florals or anything. And I find that for my taste, if I clop into the cads too quickly, things can go garish in a hurry. And once they get garish, you have to tone them down, and it's a lot easier to take it up a notch than it is to dumb it down a notch, so to speak. So I'll stick with the earth tones, you know. Yellow ochre, you could use raw, burnt sienna, you know, raw umber. But yes, as far as even your more intense colors go, I tend to stick with yellow ochre and burnt sienna, even like during the wash-in and even during much of my painting, with of course varying degrees of white. Even in a fall scene, like an autumn scene, the wash-in, the stain, will usually not include any cadmiums. Because once I have that wash-in completed, then after that I'm well and truly into the actual painting. And now I dare to kick it up a notch, you know? And my purists say cad yellow pale or cad medium, just that with white is pretty much that's my final card. That can be the highest chroma, highest value that I use in a painting. I never use straight white. I always contaminate it with a little bit of something or another. You know, and the whole painting, I like to build it up, you know, light on top of dark. Now, the same thing, that's values, but the same thing applies to your chromas. You know, you have really intense colors, which are bright colors, which are the cadmiums for the most part. So I'll start with a lower chroma, work my way up, and then when I decide towards the end of the painting, usually, I mean, I don't always, because I've got a fair bit of experience and I'll know sometimes exactly where I want my strength, but usually I save it towards the end of the painting. I'll throw in the most intense spots. I think that's just a good habit. I highly recommend it. Now again, that just applies to me. I would think that somebody who does florals quite regularly, you know, a lot of flowers, a lot of autumn colors and what have you, they would dip into the cadmium sooner than I would. There are exceptions, of course, to what I'm saying. I'm just talking about a general, you know, a general rule. Getting back to the last painting that I did, I did not use all the colors on my palette, and I used no cadmiums at all. I used yellow ochre, burnt sienna, alizarin crimson, cobalt blue, ultramarine blue, raw umber. So that's 6 colors plus, of course, varying degrees of white, titanium white. There was so little cobalt blue in it, you could almost say that there really wasn't, almost, okay? Yeah, and the raw umber really just applied to the rocks. So what did I say? 6 colors in white. So it's a 7 color palette, right? I've seen, you know, some suggestions out there that you buy, you know, 9 or 10 or 12 different colors to lay on your palette. Maybe certainly for beginners. I still think that's a bad idea. You're far better, you're far further ahead by learning to mix your colors, learning to work with a limited palette and bring them up from there. As you progress with that, as your brain gets used to that idea, you'll become more proficient with the use of your more intense cadmiums and your more intense higher chroma colors. You know, for blues as well, I've seen a lot of use of what is that? Phthalo blue. Phthalo blue is extremely high chroma as soon as you touch it with white. I have used phthalo blue. I don't have it on my palette usually, but I'll add it now and then if I want. And I'll use it sparingly, just in a few spots, you know, in a blue sky. Because it takes that blue sky, that sky which is already, can be reasonably strong, and you hit it with a bit of phthalo blue and suddenly it makes it pop. If you were to wash in your whole sky with phthalo blue to start with, where do you go from there? You can only sort of kill that color a little bit, dumbing it down with other blues or contaminating it with some other colors, you know, maybe raw umber or yellow ochre or what have you, moving it green or browner. But, you know, again, phthalo blue is a wonderful tool, but I use it very sparingly. Yeah, I guess that's about it for now. I will, I guess, see you guys on Saturday. Talk to you soon.